a child born in an old face. When the father saw him, cried from the ugliness of the child, and from his shock he carried and ran with him in the street. He stood in front of the river to throw him, but he was met by a petrol cop, so he had to give up the idea that he was going to die. But he took him and threw him in front of the elderly home, not even the orphanage. He took a little money and put them in his bed and walked. At that time, a man and a girl came down and trampled on him by mistake. Of course, the child cried at that moment. The girl was very frightened while looking at the child. The child really looked very strange and looked like demons in the movies, white hair and wrinkles. So how is this a child? The man said to call the police to find a solution with this child, but it was very difficult for Queen. So she picked up him and took him home and decided that she would adopt him and raise him. And she brought a doctor to see him as well. But the result of the examination was very bad, and all his vital organs between his liver and his heart and others are very old. And a patient who is dark in the lens of the eye, and his skin is all hard and dry, so it is impossible to live long. And he also said that she was preparing herself for his death at any moment. But Quinn believed that what is in it is evil, and she said that his life would be a miracle we will all see, and she named him Benjamin. And she said to the neighbors at him. After that, they came close and looked at him, but they weren't completely afraid, but they just sat and make jokes on him and said, "Believe it, it is look like my husband. May God have mercy on him." Quinn cared for him until he grew up by a miracle, and at the age of 4 years, Benjamin is a child who could not move except in a chair because of his body against his will. He looks old, yes, but his mind and heart is a child. He always liked to look at the children when they play outside. Finally, with good health and with a certain activity, he stood and knew how to walk, and the priest stood and encouraged him. The miracle shocked the mother again. Years gone and Benjamin would perform miracles and shock them again. It came out that everything that lives, everything that appears, is the opposite of us. From the chair to walking with the crutch until he is still walking alone, and his back is straight. The elderly could not believe what they saw. At that time the Mrs.'s granddaughter came, who has blue eyes, and her hair and whiteness would come to the mind of Benjamin. Her name is Daisy. She didn't hate her final form, and they used to play with each other every day, but Benjamin knew from inside him and was sure that it was impossible to be with her. Years gone and his body improved again and he started to feel that he was getting stronger with time. On this day, a strange boy hurried and spoke with him, and they drank how many cups together. They heard him talking a lot and he did not know that what was in front of him would remain his real father. Then he walked from the village at the age of 17 to work with a captain on the ship, and at that time Daisy came to deliver him and asked him that he should send her letters. He began to roll with him from east to west and from north to south, and everything that leads to a place must be sent by letters and pictures of the place. At that time, Daisy joined the New York dance team. 10 years gone, and Benjamin came back to the village when he was 27 years old. At the time, it looked like one form from 35 to 40, and almost Daisy came back to the village at the same time. And Benjamin change was very big and clear. Daisy did not know until he spoke, so he knew him at that moment. She ran to him and hugged him with happiness. And Benjamin thinks that he will catch up with her and marry her like a long time ago. So he traveled a great distance to take her to New York and meet her at the place where she will dance. But he saw her with another man. Benjamin walked without speaking, and returned to the village and sat with his mother and lived a normal life. On that day, the same strange man walked around him and confessed to him that he was his real father. And he sat begging him to forgive him. He heard these words and twisted his brain and walked silently. But his father also arrived on his last trip before he died, until he got a message from which he learned that Daisy had an accident, and her 2 legs were broken and she might not dance again. Benjamin is very worried, and he went to New York to meet her alone, and her lover is not present, and she does not want Benjamin to see what she looks like when she is alone like this. And no one was asked about her, so she expelled him, and he is not walking along, but he sat in New York and preferred to take care of her quietly. And one day, while he was going home, he met her in front of him. At that time, she was 20 years old. Finally, they stayed together, and they began to travel together by boat, and they sat on the shore playing and talking, and their lives are very normal, and he helped her in a way that is not described. But Benjamin knows that he is getting younger and will not be able to live with her until they are unable to die. He would appreciate every moment and every second he spends now with her. It didn't have a lot and she was pregnant. The first thing Benjamin knew, he was very worried, because he knew that his body would not allow him to live as a responsible father. He does not want to see his son grow up when he is younger. 9 months gone and the baby was born, and Benjamin can see her getting older with the days. He left money that was saved it for her and walked away from Daisy because he wanted her to see a normal man, so they could live normally. He left a message to the child, and every message he wrote down he was sorry in it for her because he couldn't be with her until she grew up. He went out rolling here and there in years gone. He came home to see his daughter, and he turns again here and there, a few years gone, and then a phone called her from the children's home. So she went there quickly, and found Benjamin in the form of a child who was 10 years before her. At the time, he was in his old age, and he got Alzheimer, and he forgot everything and anyone. And from that day on, she She took care of him, and time passed, and Benjamin was getting smaller, until he became a small baby sleeping in old Daisy's lap, and lock his eyes forever.